So you wouldn't know it about me looking at my YouTube channel and the general disarray that it's in, you know? Are my thumbnails coherent? Not even a little bit. Do I have a consistent upload schedule? No. But believe it or not, for 4 years I worked as a YouTube channel manager. And then on top of that, I also worked as a YouTube project manager. Not gonna name names, but I did that for 4 years, and it's been 3 years since I did that. I've had time to reflect. Hindsight is 2020. I would love to share some tips and tricks with you. If you're just starting out and you've never done YouTube and you're like, what do I do? And the layout of everything has changed and the entertainment platform itself has changed. There's a lot more rules than there were like 10 years ago. So we're gonna get into that. So if you're already here, I'm not going to talk down to you. You've already decided that you want to do YouTube for one reason or another, and odds are you already know what topics you want to cover, what things you want to talk about, what your interests are. That's great. That's a perfectly fine vision board to keep inside of your head. We're going to go over the nitty-gritty. We're going to go over backlogs. We're going to go over open source programs. We're going to go over what YouTube expects its content creators to publish and produce consistently and on time and on a schedule. Again, do as I say, not as I do. Take what you want to take, leave what you don't want to take. Understand that YouTube as a platform is prone to change all the time. So this video may end up obsolete in a week. It may end up obsolete in 3 years. But there's a couple of tips that I have that I feel like are going to be evergreen because they've worked for YouTubers in the past and they're still currently working for YouTubers now. So keep that in mind as we go through this journey together. I think the most important thing that's going to save you a lot of headache and a lot of heartache and kind of get the ball rolling and get you into a disciplined habit is to build a backlog. It doesn't need to be a big backlog, especially if you're just starting out. If you make short videos once a week, make a backlog of 3 or 4 and then schedule them out, sparse them. That way, while they're being uploaded, you're currently making new content. Again, I would keep it short. I would keep it within the time frame of a month. I would not make a backlog of videos to upload for like 365 days in a full year because odds are maybe the subject matter or material that you want to cover has aged poorly, or somebody associated with the project no longer wants to be associated with the project. Maybe there's new information. I would not recommend making a huge backlog, just a small one. If you're the type of person who makes bigger videos, like a really long one once a month, I would create one. I would hold on to it. I would create your second one, and then I would release the first one. Utilize the Premiere upload options so that people can be notified ahead of time for releases so that they can take time out of their week to watch it live when it goes up. Our generation's getting a little bit older. I'm not gonna lie to you. So YouTube feels fundamentally different than TikTok, and that's because TikTok is designed to give kids dopamine, basically. Like, their main platform attraction is younger adults and children and teenagers. And YouTube's is supposed to be everyone, but in general, I feel like when people use YouTube and they use it consistently and they talk about it consistently, yes, it's younger people, but it's also mostly older people. And older people and younger people as well need to set aside time in their day outside of working hours and outside of time with friends and family if they want to sit down and watch something that you made or put it in their watch later list. So if you set a premiere, they're notified and they're like, oh, this person is going to upload a video in a week that I've been looking forward to. Now the audience member knows when that video is going to premiere, so they can set a notification and they can watch that video. That's why that premiere function is there. You should utilize it. YouTube as a platform wants you to utilize it, and it'll help you. Also, if you haven't noticed yet, yes, I do have bronchitis. No, it wasn't a bit, but yes, it was a bit. Only a little bit of a bit. Moving on. Something to kind of get your head in the game is the aesthetic of your channel. Now, I'm not sure if you've noticed, but my channel has a very uncohesive aesthetic, and that is because this channel is currently my hobo trash can fire. This is what I do when I want to do something, and I don't have any other platform to present the thing that I want to do on. One day, this hobo trash can fire will look like a real YouTube channel. I'll update the thumbnails, I'll private old videos, I'll make better ones, but right now it's not a priority. If you are just starting out though, and you want to do better than I'm doing, you're gonna make a good YouTube banner, and you're gonna make a good profile image. And if you're not an artist and you don't know how to do those things, you can absolutely commission or set up a contract with a graphic designer or an illustrator. Or B, there's a couple of open source programs that you can use, and you can look through public domain, see if you can find any image assets that speak to you, anything that you feel like would appeal to your audience, more specifically appeal to you. Like the bare bones, bare minimum. I've never done this before. I have no idea how to put together a YouTube banner. Go to Google and look up the size that it needs to be. Base the canvas size of your banner off of that. You can use Krita, which is an open source illustration program. It does have a text editing function. I'm not gonna lie to you, it kind of sucks. So I would just use Krita to do the visuals, and then when you're ready to do the text, I would actually export it into a separate piece of open source software, which is a PDF editor, and it's called LibreOffice. You can also use LibreOffice as like a Word document. You can build spreadsheets in it, you can make presentations in it. Everything that Microsoft does, everything that the Google Suite does, LibreOffice can do, with some limits to it because it is an open source program, but it can do it for you. The other thing you might want to keep in mind is having a consistent thumbnail signature. Now, a thumbnail signature doesn't mean that you're signing off on it. It means that you have a consistent thing within your thumbnails that tell your audience, hey, this video was made by this person. So for some people, that is having the logo somewhere in the thumbnail. For other people, it's a specific border effect, or sometimes it's a specific color palette. Like, for example, with the team that I worked on, we would use the logo. We would also have a specific thumbnail aesthetic for the backgrounds, like a solid color or a pinwheel effect. But we would also use borders to indicate what type of video we were making. So for example, some videos were open format, some were like recordings of us going to conventions, some were reviews of products or shows, and some were original projects and animations and that sort of thing. Some people use their face in the thumbnail, some people use avatars that they made in a thumbnail. Whatever you decide, try your best to keep it consistent. It doesn't even necessarily need to be good, because the idea of a good thumbnail is like saying what is art and what is not art. All of that is subjective. So a good thumbnail is also subjective. And there's plenty of videos with horrid thumbnails that have like 1 million views. So it all just depends on what you want. Personally, I prefer to use thumbnails as both an eye catcher and an organization system. Someday I may implement that. So far I have not, because I have not had the time. But we'll get there eventually. Now we're going to talk about social networking. Don't do too much. Remember your humanity. Do as I say, not as I do. In fact, I'm going to be fixing this again pretty soon here. You should have a minimum of 1 other social media platform and a maximum of 3. If you try to have a presence on every single platform without a team to back you up, you're gonna overwhelm yourself, or you're gonna risk distracting yourself from your working hours. You are your own boss, so you need to be aware of how much time you spend in other places. If you want to get serious about staying on task, set up your phone to time you out of certain apps after a certain period of time. Be mindful of your internet footprint. Ask yourself, if I blew up one day and everyone started following me on Instagram and they saw how thirsty I was in somebody's comment section, how could that affect their view of me? Or, how I do it, I ask myself, if I reread this take in 5 years, would I want to destroy all evidence of the person I once was because I don't want to be this person anymore? Am I being constructive? Am I being mindful? Or am I being harmful and hurtful? What does this change? It's fine to have multiple social media platforms, of course, but only about 3 should be tied to your online persona. You should have at least 1 or 2 that are private accounts, where you can just talk to friends and your family members and keep up with your real life, and that's it. I have made the mistake of trying to be on every single social media platform, and in my opinion, a lot of people make this mistake. If there is a platform that you're like, I really don't like what the CEO is doing with this platform, leave it. Why are you giving them your money and your time and your energy? And in a way, you are giving them your money. Even if you're not paying them, they're paying advertisers. Those advertisers are paying for your time and like your mental presence, basically. They're paying for time on your screen and in your head. Are you getting paid for that? No, you're not. So think about it. How much of this is benefiting you? How much of this is distracting you? And how much of this is harming you? And then narrow it down. I'm going to be doing some social media spring cleaning pretty soon here. I actually do it every couple of years. Sometimes I go too far and then my internet footprint disappears. And then I'm like, man, I really wish I had that DeviantArt account I had when I was 16 so that I could go and look at art that I drew when I was 16, because I've improved a lot and I no longer have access to that. I have some of it that's traditional in sketchbooks, but I no longer have that platform because I did it when I was younger. I did the spring cleaning method and I went too far. And then everything was gone. So kind of hit a middle ground, a little bit of an even medium. But I am going to be doing some house cleaning, if that makes sense. And I would recommend you do the same. It'll give you peace of mind. It'll help you stay on task. Old habits die hard. You gotta nip them in the bud. The next type of networking we're going to be talking about is interpersonal networking. So interpersonal networking is more in person. Usually these types of connections happen at conventions. Sometimes they happen at movie theaters. Sometimes they happen in grocery stores. You're just where you're living and you're around other people who have the same interests as you. It happens a lot in California. I live in the podunks, so that doesn't really happen a lot. So if I want to make those types of connections, I have to go out to conventions. I need to go to craft fairs. I need to go where people like me are hanging out at. So that means that if I have a day where I can create stuff and I don't need to be recording and I can just do it in a sketchbook, or I can get to writing, I'm going to do it in a coffee shop, because odds are I'm going to run into another person who writes or another person who draws. And those are the types of connections that I value and that I want to make. I want to talk with other people who are interested in the same things that I am. Now, it is true that once you've made these connections and these friendships, some people choose to use this as an avenue for collaboration and working with other people, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's actually a great thing. It's a wonderful thing to have colleagues who are interested in your work and take interest in you and want to work with you. But there's also the other side of this coin, which is basically, privacy and respect. And I have been on both sides of this conversation when it comes to this, and since I've seen it from both sides, I can say with confidence that if you want to collaborate with somebody and they say no, you need to take that no. You need to take it as a hard no, and you need to let it go. Don't ask again. And for those of you who have struggles with social skills, here's a couple of other tips. If they say, oh, not right now, but maybe another time, and then they don't specify a time, that's also a no. If they want to spend time with you in terms of collaboration on a project or working together, they're going to set up a time. They're going to want to schedule something out, or they're going to give you like a form of contact, like a phone number. If they don't give you any leads and they say maybe another time, that's passive aggressive, and it's the nicest way of saying no that they can think of. They don't want to say no because they've been taught to be polite, and they are scared of having a harsh reaction to a hard no. Like, some people who grew up in certain households or around certain people feel uncomfortable with giving a hard no. And for other people, it's impossible to interpret what that means. But again, I'm going to go over a couple of different things that people could say and what they could potentially mean. So again, oh, not right now, but maybe another time. That means no. Not right now means ask in 5 years, basically. Like, you want that much time frame between asking them again, because you do not want to be in their ear and harassing them. No means no. Maybe another time means no. How about we schedule a time means yes. I'm pretty busy right now means ask again in 5 or 6 months. I'm not really open to collaborations at this time, but I'll let you know means no. Please Take no as the answer the first time, so you don't end up getting blacklisted by your own community. From personal experience in this field, the more you harass another creator or someone else's representative or their agent, the more they're going to want to boil you in oil. Take the L, get good, focus on your own content, and move on. Please, please. I'm saying this both as someone who acted as a representative and got harassed a lot, and as somebody who was expected to contact somebody else's agent once a week. And like, as I was doing that, I could feel the hole getting dug deeper and deeper. Some things are just business, but sometimes you take it too far and then it becomes personal. And once you've gone that far, it's just bad. It's just done. You're gonna have a harder and harder and harder time trying to solidify those connections. So take no for an answer. Don't be afraid to say no if you don't feel comfortable. Just straight up. If you are able to make that connection and collaborate with somebody, or someone interesting reaches out to you, you'll want to make sure that the end goal is mutually beneficial. All applicable parties should be doing an equal amount of work. Oftentimes when one person slacks off and doesn't pull their own weight, the audience can tell and they can feel it. They'll be less likely to check out the person that's just kind of there. For example, let's say that person A and person B decide to start a podcast together, and they're talking about, I don't know, artisanal metalworking. Person A does a ton of research about the history on the subject, and they bring up a lot of talking points about certain metalworking techniques used during certain eras, or they bring in guest speakers who specialize in a specific type of crafting to share tips to interested listeners. Person B, however, did surface level Wikipedia research. They don't invite guests on, and they don't have much of anything new to bring to the conversations. Eventually, person A gets fed up and they leave to start their own podcast, and all that's left is person B basically reading wiki articles out loud. Is the audience going to stay to listen to person B giving Wikipedia article reads? Or are they going to go follow person A and keep up with the higher quality content that they produce? You and I both know the answer to that. So before starting on anything, have a sit down to discuss the job assigned, who will do what will happen, and the ending goals for the collaboration, if there is one. This isn't high school. Stop letting the other person do all of the work for you. You're an adult, and quite frankly, it's embarrassing for you. Do research. Make contacts, or if you're more artistically inclined like myself, provide the visual assets for the podcast, or design merchandise for it, or run the account. Do something. Make sure all parties are doing their equal share of the work so that the hardest workers are not burning themselves out through the self-imposed obligation. Because if you have a really type A hard worker and then you have a really low-end type B worker, type A is going to be doing double the amount of work and they're going to burn themselves out, and then all you're left is with type B. Stop being type B, start being type A, and surround yourself with type A. When I say type A, I'm not talking about the personality, whatever it is. I don't actually know a lot about that. I'm talking metaphorically. Like, if you're a hard worker, surround yourself with other hard workers. If you're somebody who's interested in research or design or any sort of myriad of topics, surround yourself with people who are interested in those things. Stop letting people who just kind of want an easy ride to money or to progress or to fame ride on your coattails. Just don't let yourself be trapped by that, because some people are very good at talking their way into those situations, and they will pitch themselves very, very well, but then they won't end up doing their fair share of the work, and then you're left with the brunt of the blow. So don't let yourself be in that situation. Stop listening to what people say and whether or not they say that they're a hard worker. Start looking at their work, because everybody can say that they're a hard worker, but is what they're doing lining up with what they're saying? You really need to keep that in mind. Lightening things up and circling back into video content creation itself, let's talk about the lengths of videos. Now, this is not something that I think has been researched. This is not something that I've looked into. This is more just something that I've noticed. This is a phenomena that I think could use a little bit of delving into. But basically, with YouTube, you aren't really restricted to a time slot like classic television is. However, breaking up videos into 15-minute intervals will feel a lot more familiar to people in a subconscious sort of way. So try to make a video at least 15 minutes long, or 30, 45, 60 minutes, etc. It doesn't need to be exact, but usually if you try to hit 15-minute intervals, it'll be more likely to get clicks. There's not a lot of research into this phenomenon, like I said, but I have clocked it over the years. For whatever reason, it really seems to work, especially for 30-minute to an hour-long videos. If you want to make a video that's several hours long, go for something that feels like it works within those confines. So for example, if you were to make a video that's 3 hours long, try to break it up into acts. That way, there's something different going on every 30 to 45 minutes within that 3-hour timetable. Again, it doesn't need to be perfectly succinct within those time constraints, and honestly, you can upload whatever you want, however long you want, but these timestamps really just seem to do better in my experience. I click on videos that are within those time constraints. It's kind of like price tag marketing in a way, where when I see a video and I see how much time is on that video, I'm like, oh yeah, it's only 15 minutes long, I can set aside that timer. Oh, it's only 30 minutes long, that's perfect, I'm gonna take a lunch in a little bit. I break up my day into 30-minute intervals and 15-minute intervals, and people just do it intrinsically because of how school systems are built and because of how like the television timetable slot system for cable worked for so many years. It is not necessarily instinct, but it is taught that we should be commodifying our time in that way. So basically what I'm saying is that you need to commodify the video the way that you commodify your time. The next topic is energy. The presentation of your energy will set the tone for the video, and it shouldn't put off your audience to the topic you want to talk about. Children's content on YouTube tends to follow the Blue's Clues acting method of actively breaking the fourth wall, talking with the kids, engaging with them actively and energetically to keep their attention. Meanwhile, content targeted towards adults doesn't try to talk down to you in this way. It's presented in a more casual way. It's confident and clear, but it feels like you're having a dialogue. In fact, there's a show on PBS that was called Dialogue. I don't know if it's still a show, I just remember it in the memory bank from when I was a child. Basically what I'm saying is that there are different voices and different inflections and tones that help communicate what you're trying to say, and it should help set the tone for your video. Now, voice acting itself is a whole different beast, and there's tons of tips. Lots of different content creators could share what would contradict what I would say about it, but simultaneously, it would still probably help you, and that's because it's an art form and a performance art, which means that it's subjective to each person, and there is no objective truth because etymology and language changes all the time. So I can't speak to it that much. I have had one voice acting gig, and that's it. I'll link it down below if you're curious about the project that I participated in, but regardless, think about your energy and think about your tone. If you're curious, today's energy is Bronchitis Lady gives you her tips as she tries really, really hard not to cough because she wants to get the ball rolling. What will the energy be next time? Your guess is as good as mine. I haven't decided yet. Now let's talk about basic editing. Visuals can help with impact and keep your audience engaged, but audio cues can also help clue in the audience into what's happening on the screen. When I was a kid, I got TV and movie privileges taken away quite often due to bad grades, so I had to sit on the stairs and listen to the TV while the family watched something in the living room. Good films and shows verbally cued in the audience to what was happening. I've heard the argument several times that you should always show and you should never tell because it's boring and it talks down to the audience, and I think that's kind of an ableist take towards non-seeing viewers, and that narration that is part of the show hits a lot better than narration that was recorded by an interpreter for the blind. That's my honest take. I understand that blind and non-seeing or vision impaired people make up a smaller portion of the population, but I also know that a lot of people like to listen to videos in the background while doing something else. Some people are not going to be engaged with your visuals. As much as I am an artist, I am also not oblivious to the fact that a lot of people like to turn something on while they're doing something else. They don't want to waste a lot of mind and space trying to parse what's going on screen. They want to be cued in. They want to be clued in. And I know I'm not the only person who prefers it that way. So I think you should show and tell. So keep in mind those two things. Sometimes you'll want some impact sounds. Sometimes you'll want to make some fun edits. Something that I do is I include certain joke edits in the script as I'm writing it, and that helps me remember next time once I go into my audio and visual editor. Oh, I wanted to make my voice shake right here. Oh, I wanted to put in this image asset right here. Oh, I wanted to do this. Oh, I wanted to do that. And it will add to the quality of what you're doing. It's important to also know where to get those assets so that you don't end up committing copyright infringement, which is something I feel like everybody does at least once, especially when they're starting out. So go to the YouTube audio library. It's in the Creator Studio. Download things that will be useful to you. So if you want sound effects, download them. If you don't, just stick to music. I have an EDM playlist that I do when I do streams on YouTube. I won't be streaming for a while because my PC is garbage, so I'm just gonna be sticking to speed paints and animations and videos like this for a while. But my point still stands. Keep in mind your visuals, keep in mind the audio, keep in mind every aspect of sensory input and what that's communicating to your audience so that they know what they can expect from the video. I prefer to watch things that I can also just listen to. I'm a big podcast girly. I would have thrived during the radio talk show host era. I'm telling you, that would have been my time. But that's besides the point. I do think that visual storytelling is important. As somebody who has gone onto YouTube and looked up other people's animated student films, I love them. They're wonderful. They're visual spectacles. That's great. A lot of them are silent though. And because they are silent, you're excluding a certain portion of the population from being able to consume your content and being able to be a part of your community or be a part of the conversation. And I don't think that's fair, and I don't think that's right. So in the same way that you try to put on subtitles for people who cannot hear, you should also keep in mind, putting in certain sound effects or certain dialogue to cue in people who cannot see or in the moment can't give you their visual attention right away. Okay? I'm being so serious. Don't just show. You should also tell. It opens you up to more people, and it opens up more avenues for people who were not originally part of the conversation, and they should have been a part of the conversation the whole time. I'm gonna get off my soapbox now, but I have heard the take a million times, show don't tell, and I think that's wrong. I don't think it's objectively true. I think it's subjective, and I think that it's a talking point that gets repeated and parroted a lot without a lot of thought behind it. So show and tell. There's a reason they called it that in preschool. Show and tell. Show us the thing, tell us about it. So I'm gonna leave you with this. That's my advice. That's all of the information that I could share with you at this moment in time. That doesn't mean that it's all of the information that I have. It doesn't mean that it's all of the knowledge that I have. Like I said, I've done it for 4 years, and that was only about 3 years ago. So if you have any questions or comments, or you would like to participate in this dialogue, leave them below and I'll make a part 2. If you are interested in more content like this, or like my storyboard jokes, or if you're interested in speed paints, you should subscribe, because that's what I plan on doing for a while. If you are interested in anything else, if you have any other questions, please let me know, because there are some things that I don't necessarily think about until somebody asks a question, then the light bulb goes in my head and I'm like, oh, I just remembered this one thing, let's talk about it. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you later. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I still don't know how to do outros, but we'll figure it out. Bye.